and welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's edition of the program, we'll be focusing on workers in the oil and gas sector concerned over the federal government's proposed sale of its national assets. We also have news stories for you. We will be right back.
Oil workers in Nigeria are united in their quest for a halt by the authorities to the planned sale of joint venture assets. Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, and the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, say plans by the government to reduce its stake and sell huge percentage in assets amounts to mortgaging the future of the nation. This joint news conference seeks to draw the attention of President Bola Tinubu to what the unions believe is a plot to bankrupt NNPCL. They want the government to focus more on increased oil production and attracting investors.
You sell these assets, you get the money, you squander the money. So what is going to happen to you and I tomorrow? What is going to happen to the generation yet unborn? We are sounding a note of warning to everybody involved. Leave our assets alone.
It's not just about NUPENG and PENGASSAN. We're talking about Nigeria here. It's just that the onus falls on us as those in the industry that we must also bring this before the attention of Nigerians.
They are also against moves to amend the Petroleum Industry Act to make the Federal Ministry of Finance the sole owner of NNPCL.
NNPC Limited is owned by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated and the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. But they want to go through the back door. The Ministry of Finance want to yank off Ministry of Petroleum so that they will be the sole owner of NNPC Limited. We say no, no, no to this.
As the crisis between oil workers and Dangote refinery shifts to the courts, NUPENG denies collecting 50,000 naira levy from truck drivers, contrary to allegations made by the company.
I'm sure everybody knows that not only NUPENG operates at depot. There are other organizations that operate there. So the issue of NUPENG collecting 50,000 naira, I want to say is not true. I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Oil workers insist it is too early to amend the PIA, and they demand an outright stop to attempts to polarize NNPCL.
The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, has raised alarm over what it describes as intimidation and violation of workers' constitutional rights at the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals. The union alleges that Nigerian workers were dismissed shortly after joining PENGASSAN, an action it insists contravenes Section 7 of the Labour Act, which guarantees freedom from discrimination and fair workplace treatment. In a statement signed by its General Secretary, Lumumba Okugbawa, PENGASSAN condemned the sack, warning that it undermines livelihoods and raises questions about the integrity of labor practices at the refinery. But in a swift response, management of the Dangote refinery dismissed the claims, saying the restructuring was not arbitrary, but a strategic step to protect the facility from repeated sabotage that has disrupted operations. The company described the refinery as a strategic national asset, adding that the move was necessary to safeguard its integrity and ensure sustainable operations.
If previous governments have done what this government is doing, maybe the Abacha government, the bank has sold all our stakes in these JVs there. Tell me what they'll be using to run the country now. Because the oil bring about 80% of our revenue, of our foreign exchange. So tell me what they will use. So it's a dangerous precedent or something that they should not even contemplate at all. Let them look for alternative means, and we said it. If you list it in the stock, you see a lot of Nigerians and they buy shares and they get their money back.
If the NNPC is unable to run 4 refineries in Nigeria, we have spent about $20 billion trying to turn around things that cannot be turned around. I've been hearing that word, turn around maintenance, since when I was in secondary school. So today we are still turning it around. Why not regard it as a business? If a private individual can build a refinery that becomes functional, let us identify those people that can buy it, but we must, in selling it, the interest of Nigerians must be taken into consideration. Nigerians, public generally, must buy at least 40% stake in it.
We have other natural resources. Let's be real to ourselves. We have other, and it brings foreign resources and foreign exchange. We have other natural resources. Can actually focus on, I mean, God works in different ways. It may be God telling us to, let's do it this way. And I see it working. People will not have a buying in, because you take it to the stock exchange, people want to invest. Then you can move to, just even give you an opportunity. Okay, let's just look at other things that God has blessed us with. We have gold. We have coal. We have cocoa. Where are those things that sustained Nigeria before the discovery of oil? Why can't we go back there?
On the Profile Interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the president of PENGASSAN, Engineer Festus Osifo, who also doubles up as the president of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. He tells me that it's of utmost importance for the federal government not to sell its assets in the best interest of the Nigerian people, the workers, and the economy. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sharon. Yeah, thank you for having me.
A lot has been happening in the world of work, and I remember very well that during the press conference, I observed that Nigerian workers were putting on a red outfit. What does this signify at this point in time?
Yeah, you know what red signifies? That red actually signified danger. That red actually signified that our future is in, if we don't check what is happening today, our future could be in jeopardy. It signified the fact that there are things that are happening that we are not quite happy about, and we are not, and that we are ready to push back on it. So the red was just to signify the fact that we are not happy with some certain development in the Nigeria oil and gas industry.
What would be your assessment, owing to the fact that NNPC, which has been acting on behalf of the government, actually owes the IOCs? What do you think has been your assessment about the debt burden over the last few years?
Yes, it's a business. So business, debt, financing is one of the strategic way of financing a business. So if you own a business, either you finance via equity or you finance via debt. So there is no company today that is not owing. So literally owing or using debt as your finance option or as your finance strategy is not actually bad in terms of, when you are carrying out business of this magnitude. There is no IOC today in the world that don't owe billions of dollars to their financiers. So that is not actually the major issue. Today, what is rightly there is that there is a relationship between the JV partners, and those JV partners, they vary from one oil block to another. So in some oil blocks, you have former SPDC, you have Total Energies, you have partnering with NNPC, with NNPC having the managing the federation shares. NNPC is managing the federation shares in this JV to the tune of between 55 to 60%. So again, there have been a lot of issues. Maybe when you talk to people from NNPC, they will also tell you the challenges that they are facing. They will also tell you that they manage subsidy for the Nigerian government for over 10 years without government giving them a dime. So those were some of the challenges that they face. But let me leave NNPC problem for NNPC spokespersons to come and talk about. But literally on this, for us, the press conference yesterday, the anger really was about the fact that the federation shares in that NNPC currently manages is to be reduced. These companies are not currently operated by NNPC. So I want the public to understand this. These companies, these are not fields that are managed by NNPC. No. These are fields that are managed today by Oando, by Renaissance, and Seplat. So they are the operators. They have between 40 to 45%, of this field. So government now wants to sell their holdings from about 55, 60% to about 30, 35%. So the problem with this is actually the fact that today, when you hear that oil and gas industry is where you get the highest revenue, both internally and in terms of foreign exchange, these are the fields where those money actually comes from. These are the installations where those money come from. When you hear before now that, our Naira is plummeting, that we need to gear up production so that we will have more foreign exchange in order to stabilize our Naira, it is actually from these fields. Because the crude that comes from these fields are sold on behalf of Federation. Federation is federal government, state government, and local government. Federation is not federal government. So these fields are not owned by federal government, but they are owned by the 3 tier of government on behalf of you and I, on behalf of Nigerians. You see every month, the money that goes to FAC account is going to reduce. You see our foreign exchange earnings is going to reduce. The level with which we use foreign exchange to defend our local currency is going to be problematic. And when all this happens, the man on the street is going to bear the brunt. We are not even talking about the job for our members. Yes, it's also a concern, but we know the ways to go around it. You remember, Sharon, when you interviewed me the last time, I told you that there was divestment in the oil and gas industry and that no single PENGASSAN member lost his or her job as a result of that divestment. Nobody has come to you to say, no, what the president of PENGASSAN said is not correct. You edit live. You are a world television, right? So that means, and we said it, we asserted it in our conference. All the chairmen, over 150 branch chairmen of different companies, they were there. And they all attested to the fact that nobody lost his or her job. So even when this is about to happen, when they are planning this, we have ways with which we could protect the job of our members. We can do that. But it is not just about our members. It's actually about Nigerians. It's actually about the economy. So that is really the issue at hand, Sharon.
You've spoken a lot already, and I know that during the press conference, you emphasized on how the economy would actually, be in shambles if the government decides to take this route. But again, I'm concerned by government's capacity to meet the end of their own bargain. What do you think the government can do to ensure that they pay up their own parts with this JV agreement?
Sharon, I've been in this industry for 20 years upward. There's what they call cash call. So cash call has actually been a challenge, both for the National Oil Company, NNPC, and also for the indigenous producers. But this has been managed, Sharon, for the last almost 60 years. We have had JVs in Nigeria, Shell, Total Energies, and ExxonMobil, and ENI. They have been in Nigeria for over 60 years, right? And the first arrangement when they came in was actually the joint venture before we now veered into the production sharing contract that we often call the PSCs, right? So it has been managed, till date. So why can't we continuously manage it? If NNPC is actually allowed, given free hand to manage its asset, to manage the asset owned by the Federation without undue interference, I can tell you that those cash calls will be a thing of the past. From the insider information, we know that they have capacity to meet that. But when there are other obligations that they meet, that naturally it is not their responsibility. Let me give you an instance, Sharon. During Buhari's government, some loan was secured by the government, through Afreezing. And our crude was placed as collateral that every day some certain barrels that we produce goes to service that loan for a number of years. So naturally, that is not how it should be. So who collected the loan? The loan was actually collected or given to the federal government. But NNPC is now using the crude of the federal government to pay. But normally, you're supposed to allow NNPC to manage the system and pay dividends to you, and pay royalties to you, and give you your shares from the profit oil and the profit gas. That is actually how systems are designed to work. When PIA was passed, and NNPC was moved from a corporation to a company, we were similarly excited. We were similarly happy when this happened. We were excited and we were happy because we felt that they would have the necessary autonomy to operate. But I can tell you that today it is difficult.
Very quickly, I know you're an expert, you're an engineer. I know that you're a fourth class in this business. I know that you're a fourth class person in this business, and I don't hope to argue with you on the core of your business. However, I remember very clearly that between 2015 and 2025, during the President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, the debt burden was reduced drastically. What is it that the current government, what is it that they are doing differently that they're not actually meeting up with reducing the debt burden? Because this is a serious matter that can lead to an industrial unrest. So I think there should be a way that there might be one or two advice that you can actually give to the economists, since it's the core of the profession.
It is 2016, and when subsidy was finally removed in 2023, NNPC Limited, then corporation, later in 2021, 2022, now became limited. They were actually the one, subsidy is a federal government initiative. It's not an NNPC initiative. If you remember, during the time of late engineer Baru, as the GMD then of NNPC, he kept on telling us, he was telling us about under recovery, if you remember. If you remember then, Ibe Kachuku was always telling us under recovery, that they're not paying subsidy, but they are managing under recovery. You see all those under recovery that they were managing led to NNPC bleeding by billions of dollars. That means they were the ones carrying the burden of subsidy payment, on behalf of the government. But I could tell you, as you know, I work for an IOC, right? So I interface with the public sector as well. So with the balance of information, I know that the areas of JV, they were well managed under the past leadership of the NNPC Limited, led by Malam Mile Kiari. Yeah. It was well managed. But even today, we also know that the people that are there today, they have the capacity to also manage it. Mele Kolo Kiari was an NNPC, he grew within ranks in NNPC. The current managers of NNPC buy your jewelry from Shell. And if you understand, Shell involving Nigeria oil and gas industry and how Shell develop human capacity, we know that it has the strength of character. We know that he has the in-depth of knowledge to be able to manage this. The same thing as well, the board chairman was the former deputy managing director of Total Energies. That means the two people from the board and from the operation side that are leading NNPC Limited today, they are actually from the private sector. So what has led to this today principally, Sharon? It is not because NNPC is owing JV cash call. No, that's not what has led to this. In fact, if that is the case, what we could be doing, okay, look at this, Sharon. NNPC was meeting the obligations of JV cash call when our crude production between 2021, 2022, and till early this year was largely like 1.2 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. We were producing 1.2 million barrels per day. Cash call was being met to a large extent, not 100%, but they were managing it efficiently, right? So now that we are producing almost 1.8 million barrels per day, why do we not think that cash call cannot even be better managed? So
what would be your recommendation to the government based on these facts that you've presented?
The recommendation to the government is this. In fact, some of the reasons they gave why they are doing this, we have been interacting. Some of the reasons is not because NNPC is, no, that's not the reason. The reason is that government needs money, that they want to generate funds and they want to generate revenue for government. We have had them. Thank you very much. You want to generate revenue for government, it is okay. This whole plan, they will not get over maybe maximum would be like $6 billion maximum. But what we have recommended is this, Sharon. Remember, when NNPC became a limited liability company, there was a plan to take NNPC public and make NNPC a public liability company. So now, what that means is that if you take company public, you are going to sell some shares in the company.
Yeah,
so all we are saying is that government, don't strip the asset of NNPC. If you strip the asset they are managing, if you strip those assets and you are not taking them public, they become worthless. So all we are saying
is
that
is real business, actually.
Yes, all we are saying is that preserve the asset, just as Saudi Aramco preserved. Preserve the asset. We want NNPC to go public as a strong and viable company. So when you preserve the asset, give matching order to the board of directors of NNPC to tell them that, okay, between now and the next 3 months, we want you to list 20% of NNPC shares in Nigeria Stock Exchange. I will tell you, if they do that, that will deepen the strength and the breadth of our Nigeria Stock Exchange. 20% of NNPC shares as it is today, the government is going to rake in, a good amount of money. They may even get up to, or if not more, of what they intend to get when these deals stay through. Today, NNPC should be valued over 70 to 80 billion dollars. So what that means is that if they sell 20% shares in the Nigeria Stock Exchange, 20% of $80 billion is 60 billion. So the federal government will make more money if they leave NNPC the way they are today and they take NNPC public. The money, if they will sell minimum 20% of their shares, they are going to get more than ×3 of what they will get if they sell this asset. In fact, the government will lose much more because if you sell this asset, you have stripped it naked. If you not take it public, it will no longer be viable. Saudi Aramco did this. Saudi Aramco listed about 5% of their shares in their stock exchange few years ago, and they made several billions of dollars from it.
Very quickly, I was about going to the PIA conversation. We are running out of time, but in summary, I know that we are a country guided by rules and regulations and laws, and we know how many years it took us to attain that height of having a reform which moved from PIB to a petroleum industry to PIA right now as we speak. So can you tell us what laws will we be contravening if the federal government decides to go ahead with this plan?
The companies are set up by the Corporate Affairs Commission, but they are operating under the CAMA, Corporate and Allied Matters Act, right? So now, in CAMA, the people that take decisions on this kind of issues are the board of directors. The board of directors was constituted by the shareholders. Who are the shareholders of NNPC today? It's Ministry of Finance Incorporated and Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. So they've set all the shareholders. So the shareholders of NNPC Limited are the ones who should take decisions on assets and liability of NNPC Limited. But unfortunately today, these decisions are not coming from the shareholder, Sharon. That's a violation of a PIA. But yesterday, we raised some issues under the PIA. If you remember, during our PENGASSAN Energy and Labor Summit in Abuja, we also talked about this. If you listen to Professor Wumi Iledare, who gave the last lecture, the keynote lecture and the team talk, he actually hammered on this, that you have a law. That law seemingly has brought some level of stability in the industry, and you are using your hand to baccanize the same law or attempting to baccanize the same law that has brought stability. What you are telling investors is that there is no certainty in the Nigeria oil and gas space. As I said earlier, NNPC Limited is owned by Ministry of Finance Incorporated and Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. But what the new PIA that they are seeking to amend is wanting to do is to now yank off the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated, and NNPC will not be solely owned by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. What we have said is that is NNPC a central bank? Is NNPC a bank? Is NNPC a financial institution that you now want Ministry of you are removing the parent ministry from the ownership? You are removing people that have the technical expertise, people that have the technical know-how on how this should work. You are removing them and you are not transferring it to Ministry of Finance. I don't really understand the economics or the advisors that push government to this direction, because this is clearly not the way to go. It is not it is not a local best practice. It is not an international best practice. So we say no to all this.
On a final note, if the federal government decides to go ahead with this step, how much do you think the government will lose with this move? And also, how much job cuts do you think Nigerians will experience under this proposition?
In the short run, there will be some gains. If they dispose the asset, they make $6 billion. There will be some gains, right? They get the money, they spend it on whatever they want to spend it on. In the short run. In the long run, it's going to be a lose for us as a country. Because in the long run, we will not be able to generate much revenue from the oil and gas industry. In the long run, we will not have sufficient foreign exchange to be able to defend our naira. In the long run, there won't be sufficient tax paid and sufficient royalty paid from these companies to the government. So in the long run, we are going to lose. In the long run, we could lose something in excess of about $20 billion. So all we are saying is that this $6 billion you want to make today, you can actually make it. There is no harm in government wanting to generate revenue. You can actually generate it. But selling of the asset, stripping NNPC naked, is not actually the best way in making this, in generating this revenue. You can generate this revenue when NNPC Limited is listed in the Nigeria Stock Exchange. You will make much more than $6 billion when this listing finally takes place. And that will make NNPC to be much more transparent, because when you are listed, you are not a publicly traded company. There will be a lot of scrutiny. Your books will be examined. Your system will be much more open. I think what NNPC Limited needs today, what Nigeria must tell government today, is to get NNPC Limited listed in Nigeria Stock Exchange so that Nigerians will buy shares into it. You and I can buy shares into it. It becomes a truly national oil company and we'll be able to ask them questions.
Thank you very much for your time, and may Nigeria win.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you for having me.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.